How do you create flavour from nothing? And how can heating something so hot that even the cold part of it spontaneously combust taste good? Well, today we're going to find out, and the reasons behind it may just improve your cooking. With grilling season just around the corner, we're deep diving into creating the unmistakable flavour of cooking something over ripping hot coals. And we're going to do it today in a way that will allow you to add it to literally anything in seconds. Now the process for this is incredibly simple. We just need to get a coal white fucking hot, drop it into some oil, and be ready with a lid. And then we just need to let it infuse. The things you may need: some matches, some coal, fire lighter, metal tongs, and a little pot full of oil, and a lid. Okay, so we're going to take one of these hot coals and then put it straight in the oil. And you have to be careful when you're doing this because the temperature is hot. And while you'll get pyrolysis in the oil where there's not very much oxygen, the bit that's exposed to the air can combust and set on fire. So do this outside. Okay. So in literally seconds, we're creating a huge amount of flavour from a process known as pyrolysis. And pyrolysis happens when you expose a substance to intense heat, such that if you have something long like a fat molecule, it just breaks it all apart because the energy is so high. And it breaks it into smaller little compounds that sometimes react together. And these tend to be aromatic, so they're smaller, they're volatile, they dissolve in oils and in liquids, and it means we can taste them and smell them, and we can add this to our food. So when you're cooking over these hot coals and the fat's dripping onto the hot coal, the vapor comes up and hits the food and then stays on it as a layer, and that adds to the flavor. But in this process, we're going to put a hot coal into the oil, and then the pyrolysis will happen in the pot, and all of those nice flavor and aroma compounds will be stuck inside the oil for us to use however we want. This is subtly different to smoking or cooking over wood, because actually what's happening in that process is aerobic combustion. So you're cooking in the presence of oxygen, and the flavor profiles and the temperatures are very different because it's a different set of reactions. Now this channel is going to be primarily about exploring these processes and how we can create flavor from different substances using different processes. And if that sounds like something you'll be interested in, do click the subscribe strawberry. And we will also be looking at other things that are related to food, so the agricultural system and also how food affects our health. Now I find it quite surprising that we find this oil and its uses to be delicious. You wouldn't expect that something that is just very almost industrial to be nice, and you might think it would taste synthetic. But what we've done is create a mixture that contains many different aromas and flavors, and that's interesting to us. Now almost certainly there's a link to our ancestors and how cooking over fire allowed us to eat foods more safely and get more nutrition from foods because it breaks down the food and releases more of its nutrition. But I also think there's more to it than that, and I think the reason why we can find this delicious is because we've created a class of compounds that, I mean, I don't drink this oil, it's not that nice, but the flavors within it in the right context can add complexity to any preparation that you add it to, like a mayonnaise, or a salad dressing, or a beef tartare. We could use it as a seasoning. And it comes back to this idea that complexity in a foodstuff is a prerequisite of true deliciousness. And this, to me, is a great example of what cooking is. You know, you've started with something quite simple, and by the application of a process, you've created flavor. But these processes are the foundation of cooking, and I think knowing more of them and understanding them and how you can guide them in particular ways is important and can help you to create better food, and understand that making something delicious requires complexity as an ingredient, if you like. And in today's example, we had some plain vegetable oil, which tastes of mostly nothing, and a bit of charcoal. And simply heating this up to a really hot temperature and dropping it into the oil creates this reaction that produces flavor and produces aroma, and one that we can keep. And so we've got this oil here that's been infusing for a few hours. It's very strongly flavored, so you don't need to use much of it, but certainly you can substitute oil in a mayonnaise for a bit of this. Give it a nice little charcoal grilled kick, and you could use it as a little dressing. You can use it to saute some mushrooms, and you can use it to make a ganache even, so you could make some charred flavored chocolates, which are actually quite nice. And there are so many examples of this in cooking, about processes that you can manipulate and control to create different flavors and different aromas and different sensations. And And I think gastronomy is undergoing an evolution where chefs are grappling with these techniques and ideas and understanding flavour in a deeper way, if you like. It's no longer just food pairing or food anti-pairing, and it's no longer acid cutting through fat or salt tempering bitterness. You know, there's, I think, a growing framework that allows us to better understand what it is that creates deliciousness and how we can give ourselves the best chance of making delicious food. And this channel is going to be exploring many of these and putting together a framework, and I really hope that it's a conversation between us and we can see where this can go. I think it's important to put stuff out there and work on things together and see what comes up from it. I think it's such a well-trodden path, cooking, and I think maybe we need to jump in the weeds a bit and do a bit of exploring. So if that sounds like something you'd be into, like, subscribe and click the bell.